You're listening to Music Mythology. My name is Sam Romo, and let's talk about some music. Ready?
Yes. I reckon.
All right.
I'll follow your lead.
Okay. So I think this is episode 15, breaking down one of my favorite albums of all time. Well, one of my favorite artists of all time, and his debut album. This is Bill Withers' first album, Just As I Am. This album was released in 1970. I believe it was May 1st. Oh, I'm sorry, May 1st, 1971. Its lead singles were Ain't No Sunshine and Grandma's Hands. And yeah, that's basically the basics of the album. But before we get into the album, I kind of want to talk about Bill. I want to talk about where he comes from. He was the youngest of 6 children. He was born in West Virginia in a small mining town. He grew up. He grew up in the mining town. He immediately went into the Navy right when he was graduated and was able to leave at the age of 17. He served in the Navy for 9 years. And in his time in the service was when he became more interested in the concept of writing and building confidence in the concept of him singing. He always appreciated soulful music and just music, I think, like anybody would. But he had a deep appreciation and probably a lot of time, in service, and I mean, I know you can relate to that. And also I read that he had a stutter. I didn't know this. He grew up with a really bad stutter, and it really affected his confidence in interacting with people. And when he was in service, it was actually his commanding officer that suggested that he take therapy for that while in the Navy. And that was the beginning, the curve away from that problem of his. And it almost seems like he never really says it in interviews, but it almost seems like those coincide, that as he gained confidence in losing his stutter, that he gained confidence in making his own voice and wanting to, be actually heard, not just, communicate back and forth, but have purpose. When he left the Navy, that was 1965. And then he eventually moved to LA in 67. In between those times, he was just a factory worker. He worked for IBM and Ford, and a couple of aircraft companies. Actually, in 67, when he was in LA, that's really when he made his first debut. You can't find the song anymore, but it was called 3 Nights in the Morning, was his debut little track that he had made a self demo of, all on his own money. I think it was just him and his guitar, and then paying someone with just the money he made from his job. That song, it went unnoticed, and it didn't cause any type of buzz, but he held on to it, and that song would actually eventually become Harlem. The opening track of Just As I Am. He changed it, but the arrangement and the complexity of the song obviously came in from the studio and working with Booker T. But yeah, that's what it originally was. He, like I said, he worked at several factories, and while working at those factories, he was paying for his demo tapes to get them recorded. He was busking, he was going to clubs, he was, trying to get some experience in. He showed he shopped around with his tapes. I mean, he was really trying to build a buzz and land somewhere, because he was determined to do this. And what's really interesting is, like that, there's that New York Times interview I was telling you about, where they interview him post Just As I Am, like in between his first 2 albums, and he's already had success. I mean, I think at that point, Ain't No Sunshine had already sold 1 million copies, and certified gold and all that, and he still thought the singing and this music thing as he put it, was just temporary, and he never thought it was a career or it had longevity. And in fact, he never quit his job. During this entire first album, he maintained his factory position because he didn't think it was going to amount to much. But he, his first success was with Ain't No Sunshine. And still, I mean, I'm sorry, I know I just said that, but that's just so crazy in retrospect to think that you literally have the hottest song, and inside of a year, less than a year, I think, it had already sold 1 million copies, and still your post-interview, or post-release of that, in the midst of an interview with the New York Times, and you're saying, yeah, I don't know, that's just it was just a thing I tried, and we'll see if I keep it up. It's just he had no. It's like it was surreal. He didn't think that this was. And he says it. He says that. Let me find that quote. He says, "I don't take this singing thing very seriously. I'm really a factory worker. That's a real job. This thing I'm doing now, hey, it's just a break. I don't expect it to be very long." And turned to modern times, and now he's a rock and roll Hall of Famer, and he has two songs, which I think is Ain't No Sunshine and Lovely Day, I believe. And
I'll keep on Use Me Up.
Oh, Use Me. Well, he has. I think those 2 songs are in the Grammy Hall of Fame. Yeah. I think it is Use Me. Yeah.
Use Me.
And yeah, it's just so crazy though, just to think that he thought it wasn't much, he wasn't going to do too much. So he landed a deal with Sussex Records, and was signed in early 1970. And he was assigned Booker T. Jones to produce his album. And then, like I said before, Just As I Am was released May 1st, 1971. And the album, it was released over, I think it took there was a break in the middle, but basically it was about 3 to 4 weeks of recording. The session artists involved were Booker T on a backing acoustic, on the keys. And then Booker T, drummer, I'm forgetting his name, but from Booker T and the MGs, he was the drummer for this album. And then of all people, Stephen Stills is the lead guitarist. And I've mentioned this, I think, on the previous episode, that there's a really cool background to the beginnings of Bill Withers recording at the studio and being around people. Stephen Stills just happened to be there. And then so was Graham Nash. I don't think it was the same day, but around the recording period. And these huge players, were just, they were just pumping him up. They were just in awe of his writing style and his soul, the soulfulness that he introduced into his messages, and just how he spoke and interacted with people and appreciated them and their expertise and thinking that he was something, because again, this is even post interacting with those people and working with them and having success, he still thought, I'm just the guy in the factory. I am not Michael Jackson. I'm not Paul McCartney, and it's interesting, because he covers a Beatles song on this album. And so it's not like he's in a bubble, it's not like he's in a, this is random, like a Memphis Delta blues bubble where all he listens to are these blues artists. It's like he listens to a lot of music. And so it's not like he doesn't get this concept of what a star is. He just knows what it is, and he does not think that that's him, at all. But his storytelling ability and his writing and just his soul that he puts into his work, it's just as palpable and strong as those other artists that he, appreciated. And that was just crazy because I'm a big, we're big Buffalo Springfield fans, and that was just nuts to find out that because I love this album. I've appreciated this album for a long time and never knew that it was Stephen Stills on the lead guitar. Yeah. But it makes sense. We'll talk about it more, but because there's certain little guitar riffs and certain songs that have kind of a structure that you would think Stills would lean into or would probably really provide. Now my favorite little note about this album is the album cover. I don't know if you know this, but the album cover is just him leaning up against a brick wall, and he's just wearing a t-shirt and jeans. And Well, that building is it's the aircraft assembly building that he worked at.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
And then he's even holding his lunchbox in the picture in the corner of the album. You can see it. Says. Yeah, just as I am. Just as I am. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, he was truly, like a man of the people. He just thought, he was just doing my job. I get a shot. I get a crack at doing this. I'm not going to make it all about me. I just thought this was a good attempt at, telling a story or something. But yeah, the album was a success. It brought him a Grammy for best R&B song for Ain't No Sunshine. And by 71, like I said, that it had already sold. So by September, from May to September, it already sold 1 million copies. So what's that? That's not even in half a year, right? That's 4 months, 5 months. So that's crazy. So I'm sorry, he still didn't think that was like impressive. Like, that's just so crazy. But and then while on tour for this album, he took a break in the middle of the tour and then wrote Still Bill, his second album, and then that released in May of 72. So he released an album in May 71, started touring, took a break, wrote the next one, released it May of the next year, just like clockwork, which is, I find that impressive just because, like we've talked about before, the timetables for music releases nowadays are a little more, willy-nilly. They're unexpected. It's just kind of, it's either you produce something and give it to your label and they didn't like it, so they said do it again, or you're self-produced and you don't think you've hit it yet. You don't think you've done it yet. Or who knows, maybe you're over your bandmates and needed a break. But it's just, I'm always in awe of that old school. I guess some of it was contractual, but that old school timeline of, every 6 to 12 months, you pump out an album, while still touring, and not talking about, bands like the Beatles or Steely Dan that were studio bands, and they would work on it. They would work, Beatles had second half where they would put a lot of thought and work into the product and then hope that was a success in and of itself. They didn't need to tour. They weren't trying to tour. That's not what they wanted to do. But anyways, it's always impressive. But yeah, that's all I've got on the background. But just the fact that he just thought, hey man, the singing thing's just, I don't take it seriously, Mm-hmm. He showed it, but you wouldn't guess it, if you didn't know anything about him. You never saw the album cover and you listen to the album, you would expect a lot of experience. This man has a lot of life experience, to be in his early 30s and to vocalize feelings and scenarios in the way he does, but it's a powerful album.
I think that's one thing that comes across to me because I've never had listened to the whole album. I knew that you really liked him a lot, and I was familiar with his big songs, but I had never really listened to the whole album. So listening to it, giving it repeated, listens, and that's what came across to me was he's authentic. He's very laid back. He's very real. Just like any really good singer-songwriter, his voice captures that feeling of I'm singing about what I know and I put a lot of feeling and emotion into it. And that really, when you listen to him, like, wow, this is just as good as any other great singer-songwriter type classic album of its time. And I would imagine that's what captured Stills and Nash's attention was, they had been around a lot of people just like him who just started playing and singing and recording, but some of them were very passionate about what they did and they just did it. And he was the same. He wasn't trying to be somebody. He just wanted to play and sing, and that really comes across. That to me is one of the things I think I like about his voice is that he it's so genuine and so pure. Like someone just sitting on a porch, sitting, hanging out with people, just playing the guitar and singing. I can see how you described him, that he was not overly aware of himself. He was humble. He was humble. He just wanted to enjoy the music, and if it worked, great. If not, I'm going to go back to work. Even down to, like you said, the album cover, it's almost like saying, if you want to know who I am, I'm going to work. It's like, there's really not a whole lot to know about me, but you hear it in his voice, the like we've talked about music. I mean, you feel the memory in his music of his remembrance of what it was like to grow up, of his grandmother, of the hardness of life, of experiences, and his uniqueness in approaching songs, as we'll talk about. Very interesting how he was willing to take on some of those songs that I'm like, not everybody would be doing that at that particular
topics,
time.
Yeah.
It was not quite the thing to do, to interpret a song relatively close to its popularity or being who did it. You know, it's like, well, that's pretty impressive that you were willing to do that. But he did it his own way, you know, I mean, which is typical of, you know, like a family gathering where someone's like, I like that song, so I'm just going to sing it. And they just kind of make it their own, you know, but they want to interpret it by just the way they do it. And that really, I think what comes across the album is I'm doing this the way I want to do it. This is me. Yeah. You know, I'm not trying to sound like somebody. I'm not trying to create some kind of a new song or a new feel, or I'm just playing and singing. Yeah. And so that, I think that's what really makes the album very powerful and very good. And it holds its own. I mean, I think about how old it is. It still sounds great. Yeah. I mean, listening to it. And as I listened to it multiple times, like, man, some of the songs and the music are really good. Yeah. And to me, stand up to any of what would be considered the great albums of that time period, especially of that particular genre, the singer-songwriter kind of folksy, soulful, folk, almost like you said, kind of Buffalo Springfieldish, kind of Crosby, Stills and Nashish, kind of James Taylorish, but him. What comes across is that's him.
Yeah, he's very sincere.
Yeah, it's very sincere and very genuine, and you can tell he's not reaching or straining to try to be like somebody. That's just the way he did it. That's how he liked to sing, and so I think that's really neat. That's really, you know, that's really what comes across is this, that sense of, I'm not trying to make a big album here. I'm just, here, give me a shot, so I'm taking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. That's what's so cool about those recounts of from Booker, or from Stephen Stills or Graham Nash, where they're conversing with him like they're confused, like you're at another level. Like I don't know if you realize how good you are, but he's just been such a worker, such a person who puts in discipline, puts in effort for sincere results, that I think he was just self-satisfied with being able to, you know, play for his family, play for small clubs, or just in his own right, be satisfied that he made a piece of poetry that he appreciates just in the same light as, you know, other music he listened to. But that's why, you know, like, I mean, he says it in the song, in that Do It Good song, but it's like where he's just speaking and he says, you know, Booker just tells him, just do what you do, and you just do it good. Do it good. But and to me, that's not just a simple blunt statement of a lazy producer saying, just do what you're doing and just make sure it's done well. I think it was a confident statement, because they were like enthralled. They were taken back by this man who had such ability, but was so humble in his approach, and would just, if you want me to do it, I'll do it. But it's just a little song I wrote. Like, it's a great song you wrote. What do it again? Let's you know, and that's. This is when you see how he's interviewed and how people speak about working with him. It's just, he's a humble person.
His voice, so too, his lingo, his demeanor, I guess, and how it's very hippie-ish, hip talk. Yeah. In other words, that's the way you would talk in that period of time.
Hey, you know? Man, I did this.
This is groovy, do it good. That was like Nike, just do it. What we would say, well, that's what Booker was saying, do it good. Like, okay, you know what that means. You know, just, you give it all you got. You know, it's not, it wasn't just some cliche he was saying. It was actual, you know what that means. You know, just do what you give, everything you got. So, I mean, he does. I mean, you can tell that in how he approaches it.
Well, I almost feel like it's even a little more basic than that Booker almost saw an artist that he didn't have to hover over and helicopter and guide to every little avenue, you know, like a Janis Joplin, someone that's like a little wild but creative, you know, he didn't have to be, And so I think, and the fact that he was off the cuff, just being in the same studio, impressed people like Stills and Nash, that that meant that he like radiated talent.
Yeah.
And so to Booker, it was almost like, just do what you do because you're already 90% of the way there. I'm just here to remind you to just do a good job at it.
And I think you see that in him, in Booker T's production, and the feel of the album is that it's almost like, I'm not going to do a whole lot to what you're doing because you're already doing it. You know, I'm just touching it up. Little arrangements here, strings there, but I'm going to let you come across. And I think that's really what does come across is him, his, like you said, his style, his laid back, humble approach, his singing that is very, to me, very, folksy and very connected to what he's experienced.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it still, resonates. It still is a good album. Yeah. Because it captures that period and it captures him, and him just being just singing like you're saying. So yeah, that's one thing I really was surprised at, listening to the whole album.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you kind of bring up Booker T's approach to producing him and handling him, because I agree that there is one song where it's just him and a guitar, and now maybe to Bill he wanted more like that because maybe that's how he was used to playing them and showing them off. But I mean, to me, it's like if it was a controlling producer, like Phil Spector, and we're like, I want a full sound, you need a bassist, you need this, because I think it's in my heart. That's just him and a guitar. Yeah. And it's like, they might not have put that on because I think it's 11 tracks. They could have easily just made it 10 tracks, left that off and be okay. But I think there was some freedom there. But even Bill, in an interview post this album release, when he's working on Still Bill, he has more liberty, and I don't think Booker's involved in that. I think he has a producer, but it's more him. Yeah, kind of going back and forth. So. Yeah, and he has more control because he has more clout.
Yeah, and he understands better what goes on in the studio.
And so to him, when he's interviewed, he says that this is a great piece and part of him, but Still Bill is kind of like the next level where
this is really me.
Yeah, this is where I have more liberty and freedom to express myself and not be controlled by a producer. A lot of this is just me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where the background of that song Use Me comes from, is it's like, use me up. He's like, I like to be used as talent, but it's like he's aware of it. He's aware of that dynamic. And
that's something it seems that what I've read about he didn't like in the music industry. Yeah. He didn't like that.
Oh, he hates the music industry.
He hates it. And it was really contradictory to him. He wanted to just be able to make music and well, it's a machine, right? They want to make money. Yeah. And so it's all about sound. Usually that's why you get a producer to a certain extent. Yeah. Not just technically, but to make sure that it pops and it has a certain something to it. And you can see that with Booker. I mean, because I read about him, he's pretty interesting in himself. And so, I mean, he's got all this experience in the studio and he knows what to add on. And you can tell in some of the songs, okay, that's got to be Booker, the arrangements, the strings. But then you can tell he still reflects his respect or his awareness of, hey, this guy needs to just be left alone. I mean, let him just play, let him make the song the way he wants to. And so that really comes across. And I think that it works in many times in the album where it's just very, very, to the point.
Yeah. Well, you want to get started on it? Absolutely. So the first track is Harlem. It's kind of this groovy, string-driven, soulful song about the hard life in the city. Well, it's about a lot of different things. Yeah. But it's about enduring all the things that you, experienced down there. But it's I'm sorry. It's about enduring. I'm trying to read my notes here, and I'm a terrible writer. And I put it's really about enduring all these things that you can't control. Yeah. Like living in the city, there's a lot of chaotic things, and just living anywhere. But that's what a lot of the topics handle. But musically, I love the buildup. I love how it has this musical momentum to it that every time a measure finishes, he adds on another instrument. Where it's it's just him and the percussionist and the strings, and you hear a tambourine join in and more strings. It's like every measure, one more layer and one more dynamic gets added to it. And I think like halfway through, like the drums start to pick up a little bit and it gets a little more energized.
It intensifies.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good opener.
Yeah. As I've listened to it multiple times. it actually reminds me in a sense of the musical buildup of like a West Side Story, because it's got that city vibe, almost like a Stevie Wonder living in the city, where he's giving you his little snippets of things that he's seen in the city and what it's like to live in Harlem, how it's good and it's bad, and how you got to be careful about stuff, but in all that is that mix, like you said, that arrangement, that buildup, and the song intensifies and the strings intensify. But it has that almost like a musical feeling, like, where it builds up. It's theatrical, it's very dramatic. And so I don't know if that was the point, was to make the opening song kind of a, hey, here it is, boom, boom. And it's a very interesting song. And I think very much is very defined too by that year, that period of time, because it's kind of got that urban thing, but at the same time, it's musical. It's I think it shows both of their input. It shows Booker's input with all the strings and the musical composure, musical composition, but where there's words and his concepts and how he wants to build up on it. It's a very interesting song and very unique, I think, to me. Yeah,
my favorite line from it is. All the hip folks getting home from the party while the good folks are just getting up. It's a great line.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have anything else for that one?
No.
It's a good song.
It is.
And then the next track is probably his biggest song. Ain't No Sunshine. It's very in line with the rest of the album. With the it's beautiful, but it covers a harsh reality, and it talks about the loss of a love, really the loss of love in a relationship, and how raw that change can be, and in the way he writes it, it's very purposeful, and the tense and the wording that he uses, like when he says, "I wonder this time where she's gone." It's like it's not the first time. He alludes without having to tell this grand story. He alludes to all this history, and that's what that's really what makes him a really good writer and lyricist. Is he's really good at making you see it and really
and she's
understand it.
Too long,
or just like Harlem, we were just saying, all the descriptors he's using, and the imagery that he's using. I mean, you can kind of you get a sense of it, but with this song being basically about losing love in a relationship, but losing their life together, and you can't imagine life without her. It's a great heavy track because it's so beautiful in the arrangement with the strings, and just his voice and the soulful energy that he carries. But it's heavy, it's a heavy song, but it's just like, I don't know, everyone's drawn to that song.
Yeah.
You can't not like that song. And I think that's the offset, that beautiful music. I mean, any music that or any song that has beautiful music, but a serious, heavy, message that's done well and written well, it's going to be impactful. It's going to really hit you. And this song, it's a short song. The lyrics aren't even, crazy long. And it hits everybody. There's not anybody that can't listen to this song and be like, wow, that was weak. No one can say that about this song. And again, like his writing, the comparison of the changing of a house to a home, and using that as a sign of the warmth that that they share together in their love. But then it's just a house. It's just a standard place to be in when she's not there, when the relationship isn't together, when it's not working. Because a home is somewhere that's safe, it's secure, it's a sanctuary. It just drives that home. It really makes you feel that lonesome, pondering feeling. Almost that pensive state of just, I don't know what's going to happen next. And it's lonesome. But it's, I don't know. I've always loved it. This is a very random tangent, but I'm really big into video games. Been playing video games all my life. And there's a video game for Dante's Inferno, the book. Again, this is very random, but me and my buddy, Shane, we used to talk video games all the time, and we would watch the trailers, the teaser trailers and the release trailer and all these things. I mean, we were all into that I'm a media junkie. If I like it, I like to get really into it. And when they released the trailer for Dante's Inferno, like the teaser trailer, because the story is he loses his loved one and he has to go through hell to get her back, literally all 9 rings of hell. And so the teaser trailer is just Dante like going down into the ground through every level of hell, blah, blah, blah. And it's a quick trailer. I think it's only like 90 seconds long, a minute long. And they use Ain't No Sunshine for the song.
That's interesting.
And it's just, I've always loved this song growing up. But to me, that's one of my favorite game teaser trailers or announcement trailers, just because it's such an odd use of the song.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, it just fits with the beautiful string arrangements. To me, because that's what I used to tell my buddy is, to me, it shows the strength and the power of that song, because it doesn't really relate to what this visual is showing me, but the heaviness and the intensity, it's still driven home, even though it's a guy, talking about these things over strings, a string arrangement in his guitar. It's still hitting you. It's still hitting you like a reality freight train. And it's I don't know. I have one more thing to add, but what do you guys say?
Well, I was going to say that I think this is one of the times where Booker T's production and where there's music and the way he plays and sings match completely well, and that's why it's still a very popular song. And I mean, obviously, when they made that song, they had no idea that you roll out to the 2020 or where we're at, and this is a song that's played all the time, over and over on radio, and like you said, and used as a background to movies or trailers, but I mean, this is a song that you probably could play and everybody would know that song.
Oh, it's a cultural piece.
It's a cultural song, and so in line with that, I will mention this a couple of times, I'm sure, is that he's to me, he's very reminiscent of James Taylor. It has that James Taylor song feel. That, in other words, this is a song that when you make it, it's going to stick with you forever. Everybody's going to know that song. They may not know you, but they'll know that song, and then they'll say, "Oh, that's the guy that made that song," And so, I mean, it's one of those kind of songs, and I know it ranks high in the Rolling Stone all-time songs, but it's just a beautifully well-crafted song.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, like you just said. That's why it's haunting. That's why you still listen to it. That's why it's still enjoyable even now. And so it's a great piece. I mean, it's just perfect. I mean, the arrangement, when you listen to the strings, they're just right.
Yeah.
It's not overdone. It's
not too long.
It just accentuates it and helps it to build it, to make it feel even richer and fuller. But his voice and the way he plays, like you said, I mean, to make that and not realize what you did, I'm sure there was producers and people who were like, "Oh man, we're gonna make a lot of money out of that song. Man, this guy's awesome."
Well, who knows? Maybe that's what made him even super more annoyed of the industry.
Oh yeah, because they wanted more of that. Oh yeah. And hey, your music's great, but we really need another one of those songs. You know what I mean? So I could see him saying, "I really don't know if I mean, that's just a song I did." I mean,
and he's like, "I'm not going to do it for you."
Yeah, I mean, so I just did it because that was in my, my heart and my head. And
well, and past this album, a little bit in the future when he's being interviewed, he says that I haven't changed anything about my lifestyle. I still drive the same car I drove to the factory. I still wear the same type of clothing. He's like, I haven't changed much. So it's like, it's not even a bigwig coming to him saying, "We're going to make you rich," was a worthwhile venture to him anyways.
No, it doesn't matter.
To him, it was just them. It's like, no, you're just trying to persuade me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I think that gives even more power to the song itself. And is a great testament to him as an artist, where he was at and what was happening in the times. You know what I mean? That songs like that were just, I'm sure even in that day, people were like, "Man, that's a really nice song." I mean,
Yeah.
But not realizing people from 20, 30 years, 40 years later are going to be listening to that song saying, that's a great song, you know, and no one's going to say, don't play that song. You know what I mean? It's like, so, I mean, it's a song that your children's children are going to hear that song, you know what I mean? And that's an amazing thing and it's not because it's, how would we call that? It's not just the regurgitation of pop culture.
Yeah, it's not because it's catchy.
Yes, or just because they're going to just show it anyway, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. It's because it's very good. I mean, it's a very good song.
Yeah,
and
it plays a certain string.
I mean, that's why I see him a lot like James Taylor. He has the ability to sing a song. It's like, man, I love that song.
Yeah,
I mean, that song means something to me, you know. I mean, I want to play that at a wedding. I want to play that at a funeral. That's why you play songs like that, right? Because it's impactful. It means something to you, and it kind of becomes a part of you. You know, that's what's beautiful about music. I mean, whether it's a family get together or listening to someone like a Bill Withers or whoever, it becomes a part of you. I mean, it's like I really like that song because it means something to me. So
and I mean, I know we've said this a few times now, but I mean, he was just such a talent. And even if you take away his guitar ability, his lyricism, and he was just a vocalist, he's still a fantastic vocalist.
Yeah.
You know? So the one other thing I had to add that I didn't know this is that the 26 I knows in the track, that was a placeholder of his. He wanted to write a third verse for the song. He thought the song was going to be longer. And that's kind of thing I was going to say before is I like your comment how you said that this is a beautiful balance between him and Booker, because you have him conquering the lyricism and the delivery, and you have this beautiful string arrangement, just, you know, adding nothing but vibrance and another level to the whole composition. But it's short, you know, it's like it doesn't need to be super long. He doesn't need to talk, because there are other songs on here where he has multiple verses where he talks about multiple things. But this one, it's just, he drives it home, keeps it short and sweet. But he originally was going to have a placeholder, but it wasn't until he first performed it and did that placeholder in front of those pros, in front of all the session musicians and the producer, that they said, no, leave it in. He's like, that actually fits it. It's like, it gives it a different expectation of where you thought the song would go.
It adds a difference to the song.
Yeah, and I love those little quirky, or I don't know what you would call it, those little niche ways he would have of writing or singing or pronunciating in a certain line that would give it a little extra oomph when it wasn't just.
I see that, and I'm sure we'll touch on that as we go I see that as his upbringing from being around gospel and being around folk singing, soulish singing that was very, you almost like jazz. You come up with a sound, you know what I mean? You come up with a or something, or how you use your voice a different way. He picked up on that from, that's how people do it when they sing gospel or they're just singing. They just do something different because that's how they do it. In other words, he's like, this is how I do it.
Yeah, it's like an accent.
Yeah, and it's very unique to him, which is, again, what comes across in the music is it's so unique the way it's just him. Like you said, just as I am. I mean, that's how I do it. That's how I sing.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's cool is, like we talked about, Booker or no one involved made him change it. They just said, just do it good. In other words, just do what you do. You know, I'm not going to try to change you. And I think that's what he meant too. I'm not going to try to change you and make you do this. Don't do that. Change your voice, change your tone, you know, cut this, you know, extend that. He's like, just, you got it. I mean, that's good. Yeah. So,
and then the next track, so both of these, Ain't No Sunshine and this next track, Grandma's Hands, those are the singles, which are, I think those are the strongest songs on the album. But Grandma's Hands, I think that's my favorite one from the album. It's got the smooth, bluesy feel to it. But I mean, he pinpoints that the attributes of his loved one, you know, the things that he cherished about his grandmother. And he, he proves his love by admitting all these small actions that still stuck with him, you know, because anybody who's experienced in life and has lived life long enough to, you know, lose someone dear to them, they realize in those hard times, the times that kind of weigh on you the most, it's those little things that you didn't think would hit you like that. You know, you don't always think of your wedding day when you think of your grandmother that was there. So you might think of like these little things when she would pick you up, when she would give you candy, when she would, you know, play music at church. It's like, you know, these little bitty things are the things that remind you of who they were. And that's what's so beautiful about this song is it just captures that appreciation and that purposeful action of cherishing this person and appreciating them post-mortem, post them affecting them anymore, post them being around to hear that. But you just, it is a legacy, and it is his way of honoring that person. And it's beautiful. And like you said before, this is one of those songs where it's not a pop song, and it's not a gushy pop formula song. That's not what he's going for. This is like a real, kind of like an admittance. Like, this is what I'm going through. This is what is weighing on my soul. And if I'm going to explain it to you, I'm going to do it good. And I'm going to tell you exactly who this woman was in every little way that I still think of her.
Well, and a couple things. It ties back into what you said about, you know, Sunshine. I find that on the album, some of the songs that are the best songs are short and to the point. And when you think about great songs, whether it's the Beatles or James Taylor or whoever, many of their songs that are really, really good are very short. They're 2-3 minute songs. And he does some great things with these short 2-3 minute songs. And this one, especially, he, like you said, it you can tell it was very important to him that he wanted to capture his recollections of his grandmother. But even the style of the song is very almost like if they were having church in the back of the house, or in, you know, I mean, it was spiritual. It's a very spiritual. It has the sound or the feel of a spiritual song, a hymn. It's like a hymn, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's a hymn to her. You know what I mean? It's his ode to her. It's his way of saying how much you meant to me. But I'm going to even make the style kind of like you would have wanted that song to be. You know, that kind of hand clapping, toe tapping, almost like I could go into a fevered moaning and groaning. But I don't. This is not what that's about. You know, I want to capture how you made me feel. You know, and that's kind of what you do when you do try to do something to pay homage to someone you love. You want to capture how they made you feel, and he does that with that song. Because it's very sweet, and very much you can see him being a little boy, you know, playing around her and listening to her. Even like her hands would hurt and swell, you know, and that's the kind of things you remember about somebody, you know. And so it's a really sweet song, and you can tell it really meant a lot to him to do that song. He wasn't doing it for anybody but her. Yeah. You know, it's like, so I'm sure Joe Booker I don't know, I'm saying that. He don't tell me how to do this song. Yeah.
Or like, you can add a couple of things, but don't.
This is really how I want it to be.
Don't jazz it
this
up
is
too
me
much.
To her. Yeah. So it's almost like him standing at her graveside saying, this is a song I did for you. Yeah. You know, that's kind of how you feel. It's very intimate and but very sweet and to the point. In other words, you know, he doesn't, you know, get too long drawn about it. He's like, I just want to hit it and do it good. And so he does follow, as he said, Booker's advice, but that's really one of the songs that does stand out.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful song. And I love the outro where he has the closing statement. If I get to heaven, I'll look for grandma's hands. And then you have that groovy guitar outro in the background, which had to be Stills, because I think Stills was the only electric guitar he's the electric guitar on the album. And so you just have that.
And you know, that was popping in my head when we were talking about it earlier, and you saying it just then, that's another aspect of it. This is Stephen Stills, who knows how to play, and he's already a known musician and a celebrity. He doesn't even show out. he just plays. He just plays the
he
guitar
does little
for
accent parts
for background, but it's very subtle and it's very, in the background. He's not trying to say, well, they need to know Stephen Stills is on this album.
Yeah, there's no sticker on the LP that says featuring Stephen Stills.
You don't sense his intrusion in terms about his music, how he plays the guitar.
Yeah.
He just plays it, and he does it, it's almost like, I just want to help you. I don't want to override it, and I don't want to be known, which is amazing. Because again, like you said, I never knew Stephen Stills played on that album. I was like, that's amazing that he just did that and didn't want the attention, didn't want, to take away from Bill Withers in his first album, which says a lot, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, that's my favorite one off that album for sure. And then following that one is Sweet Winomi.
Yeah, Sweet Winomi.
It's a smooth, soulful, folky kind of song. It's another song that kind of, it's visual. The way he describes the room and her and the warmth and being
now, do you
near
know
each
who
other.
is she? Who is he singing about?
I don't know.
It could be it's just a song.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was singing about a specific person or.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on the places where I look. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a great song where, again, he makes note of his surroundings, the feelings that the things that he feels and he appreciates when he's with his sweet Winomi. It's like he's just good. This is another good example of why he was just a great writer.
Yeah.
It's like if anything, this is his kind of structure,
style.
his formula.
Yeah, you feel his soulful, funky, approach that adds to something a little different to the way he does the song.
Yeah, because if anything, this song that falls in line to what you would say is the Bill Withers formula.
Yeah,
you got that soulful folk feel to it, but then it's got lyricism that it's picturesque. It puts you in a scene, But this is a sweet song about a gentle romance and appreciation. And when I say gentle, because his descriptors, sweet, softly, sleepy, pretty little, but it's just, again, he's just a master at composing that type of mindscape, for songs, for being able to visualize it and feel it. Mm-hmm. It's just and I get it. I get why you compare him to someone like James Taylor or Stevie Wonder, someone that's super soulful, super expressive, and not just expressive. They're composing it, they're writing it to accompany their song,
right,
and their message, and it drives it home.
And that's it. To me, if you were to describe James Taylor, it'd be kind of pop folkish with maybe a little rock. But with Bill Withers, it's folky, funky soul with a touch of jazz. And he incorporates that soulish funk very well, because he doesn't let it take over the song, but he expresses it, which is, I'm sure he grew up listening to that music, and it's a part of him, and so it really comes out in his work. But at the same time, he knows how to make it delicate. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to push it, but it just adds to the song and makes him really kind of unique, like you said, in his way of approaching the music.
Yeah. Do you have anything else on that one? So then the next one is Everybody's Talking, which is one of the two tracks that weren't written by him. Mm-hmm. So this was written by Fred Neil, another songwriter. So this is the track that I was going to say, if any of all of them give me the Buffalo Springfield vibe, because it has the first half of it sounds like Buffalo Springfield to me. And then just kind of folky rock kind of sound. It fits that groove. And then the second half, or the ending, is like all Bill, where like the why part, the why, like that's sorry, that was terrible. And because that's where his style comes out. His lyricism, how he projects his lyrics out.
Yeah, and how he does the skipping. That's also.
Oh yeah, that's
skipping.
what I was gonna say. That's my favorite part. Yeah. Sorry, if you want to say something, because I need to pull this up really quick.
Well, one thing I realized, I thought, that had to have been relatively close to when the movie came out, which was Midnight Cowboy, and the original Everybody's Talking version, which is by Nilsson. And so that was a huge song because of that movie. And that movie was a real kind of a breakout movie at the time, in 69. So when he does the album in 71, this is a pretty big song for him to take and take on. And he does take it on, but in his own style. He changes the song.
Yeah.
And he does it almost, again, like somebody sitting there go, I've heard this song and I like it. So I've been thinking about playing it like this.
It's like doing a soul mix.
Very soul mixing, very almost jazzy scat singing kind of. But I mean, the first time I heard it, like, oh, that's not the song. Well, of course not. It's not Nilsson. It's not the style at all. But he's like, it's like me just playing the guitar. And like you said, kind of having that kind of folksy, rockish, like you said, Springfield polka kind of feel, kind of, but it's just an interesting. I don't know. It's almost to me his way of saying this is what I feel like when people are saying stuff about me, and I don't like it. I mean, I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I just want to do what I'm doing, but it's a very interesting, and to me, it's like, wow, that's kind of brave too, especially at that period of time to take on a song that everybody knows this song.
Well, I mean, he also does Let It Be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're going to hit Let It Be too. But I mean, that's pretty impressive to be pretty much a nobody artist and say, I'm going to tackle this song
and redo it.
Yeah. And do it in a style that he knows some people are not going to like that style.
Yeah. Especially if they, they're like those purists. I was like, I want it how Nilsson did.
I can understand if you wanted to do a rock version, but you did it kind of funky, just
folky thing. Yeah.
Folky, what's that? I mean? And
like, and again, some of those parts, I could get that those traditional rock people wouldn't like his accentuation when he's like saying why multiple times, like just the way he changes his tone when he's saying, but like, I love that crap. I think that's his style. That's his niche. Yeah. And that's why I love the closing part of the song where he's like, skip over the ocean. And then you have the guitar going, wow, and then the strings coming in at the same time. It's just A1. That is just perfect. It's like,
it's a very interesting song,
because I love that closing part though, where he's saying the skip part, because I mean, this the production of it, how it's just him, everything else cuts off and it's just him speaking, and then right when he says over the ocean like a stone, and all the stuff comes back in and you're back in the groove. And it's just that's a great song. I love that one. Anything else on that one?
No.
Cool. Good. And then the next one is one that we've referenced many times, is Do It Good.
Do It Good.
So this one I feel like is the most like kind of like Booker T, kind of like that jazz feel, and also kind of like I know this would have been like couple years after this album was made, so who knows, maybe it inspired them, but I know they're all kind of jazz related anyways. Like it kind of has that Steely Dan feel, that where they're saying the do it good like over and over. That's like this album, if you swapped out the singer for Fagin and then threw it on Can't Buy a Thrill, it would fit it, you know what I mean? It's pretty close, but it's a good song. It's just got a odd opening line. To me, the opening line is the weakest line in the entire album, where he says, if you want to kiss a funky beagle, hitch a ride upon an eagle, read a catalog from Spiegel, we'll go on and do it. It's just random. It's so random. But I love the bridge where he breaks and he just speaks directly to the listener. And and just talking about who he is. I love how he never says his name too. I feel like that's another humble note about himself.
He's not pushing
he's
himself.
Like, if you read the album, my name is what my name is. He doesn't even say it. But it's just great. And just the fact that he's like, Booker just said, don't worry, just do it, just do you, but do it good. It's like that. Again, I know we've already touched on that, but I just feel like that's a big cornerstone of this album. Is like he is the foundation. It's not this team of people coming up with this concept and these lyrics. It's like a majority of it is him, and they've stylized it on the peripheral, for the music sake of keeping it interesting with strings and different musicians. Because I mean, he would probably still be successful, maybe not in the same light, but he would probably still be successful if it was just him and a guitar doing the same stuff. I mean, Ain't No Sunshine in Grandma's Hand would still probably explode, you know, maybe a little bit different, but I just feel like it would still be a impactful thing. But yeah, it's kind of the last groovy kind of feel good song, you know, before the second half of the album gets a little more serious. Yeah, which is pretty normal music curation for an album, especially during that time, because you want the first half to hit, you want the first half to get everybody into it, and then the second half will be the more experimental or the heavier songs for, you know, so people could avoid them if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on this?
Well, again, this is another song that's very short and sweet and to the point, but it's interesting and it, to me, it comes across almost like something he would have maybe came up with when he had his little, you know, like he would be working nightclubs, or, you know, it kind of sounds like that, sort of like a little jazz band or a little, they're just kind of starting an intro and they walk in or sit there and start talking, and then he just kind of introduces himself, you know, but the music's kind of playing behind him and you're getting a beat, and
it almost feels like being at a show. Yeah,
being at a show, like that's what I'm saying. It has that feel like you know, you can just repeat that sound and you can just kind of move with it and do what you want to. But like you said, I mean, he's introducing himself. He's almost showing you. I mean, you know, well, here I am. You know, like you said, you know, I am who I am. I mean, you know me. You know, it's like, and it's like, okay, well, you know, in other words, it's not. It really doesn't matter how much you know about me. I'm just gonna do it good. I'm gonna just play the music, and so yeah, I think it's kind of a cool. Sort of like showing the interaction he had with Booker T, that they kind of mesh there, you know, in that sort of sense of, you know, that playing just loose and just play it. Let's just go with it. And, you know, and you just talk if you want to talk. I mean, you know, so it's an interesting little point to him, and kind of, I think, highlights again, like we talked about, that whole feel of the album and the feel you get of him as a person and as an artist. But yeah, I like that song. I think it's pretty cool.
Get stuck in your head. A little do it good part. All right, so now it takes a serious turn, ladies and gentlemen. The next track is "Hope She'll Be Happier." It's pretty upfront.
It's pretty deep.
To me, it kind of has that "Isn't It a Pity" by Harrison feel to it, because of the guitar and the organ, the way the music rolls out. It's just that slow kind of crawling pace that just tells you, like, it gives you the signal that we're going to be talking about something serious. You know, this isn't lighthearted. This isn't just something to just throw around and just goof about. Like, it's more of a serious tone. And I mean, the song's about coming to terms with losing his love. Goodness, I can't read my notes. Here you go ahead. I need to figure out what this says.
Well, it might be kind of jumping ahead, but I know to me this song kind of seems to be like a part one to Better Off Dead. I think that the two kind of seem to almost be like bookends of whatever it was he's experiencing or he's describing. You know, it's like, it's a sad song, like a ballad song, and his almost like a lament, like, you know, well, I'm sorry it didn't work out, but I hope you're happier with him.
It's kind of like an ode to a past love.
Yeah, and he obviously, in the album as a whole, he seems to reference romance and relationships, and he's had some fair share of bad ones that didn't work out for whatever reason. But or he was just trying to capture that feel, kind of a blues kind of a feeling. But yeah, it is a very serious kind of a tone, and it's a good song, but it is a sad song.
Yeah, well, I think that's, you know, like this one and like I'm Her Daddy and Better Off Dead. You know, I think those might not be personal recounts, but maybe environmental recounts. You know, stuff he's seen, he's grown up around,
heard about. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and this song's also just about reeling from that kind of relationship change. You know, talking about, I can't believe she don't want to see me. We lived and loved with each other for so long. I never thought that she really would leave me, but she's gone. You know, and you know, this kind of this to me, this is the follow up to Ain't No Sunshine. This is the slow crawling feedback of what's transpired post the breakup, and this is just him kind of dealing with it and saying, wow, she really did it's not this time. I wonder where she's gone. She really is gone. It's a heavy song.
It kind of has a Motown feeling to it. The Motown, a lot of their songs would be about breakups and lost love and remembering how things were or could have been. And it has that kind of a feel to it. But again, it is a very sad type ballad.
Yeah. And then that one leads into Let It Be, which I know I said the second half is more like heavier and serious. I feel like Let It Be should be on the, like if they were going to switch it up. Now I knew like Ain't No Sunshine was just such a hit, and they knew that they had, captured lightning in a bottle. And I'm sure they wanted to put it as early as they could on the album just to bring it on home. But that matches the second half more than the first. Like if you want to play that game and say the first half is the positive side, the second half is the more serious side, then you would probably put Let It Be in place of that, and then Ain't No Sunshine back over here, and maybe swap the places of Ain't No Sunshine and Hope She'll Be Happier. Who knows? Maybe that's how it was intended. Because to me, that's how it plays out. Ain't No Sunshine could lead into Hope She'll Be Happier, and it just makes total sense in a gloomy, serious state,
I see what you're saying.
But if you want to introduce the mix of, everything the album's about, then sure. But I'm just thinking maybe conceptually, if you wanted it to keep it halved into, different feelings, that's probably how you would do it. But just like with... Everybody's Talking. This is his version of Let It Be, which is a more soulful gospel kind of cover. He's using organs, hand claps, tambourines. It's like that's that kind of spiritual stuff.
Spiritual songs, spirituals.
Yeah, and I also because there's a classic Beatles song. I don't have too much to say about it. I just have one.
To him again, the fact that he tackles the song when it's very rare, it's very new. It had just come out.
Yeah, it was only a few months.
I don't think it was a year. To tackle a big song from a big band, and then to make it your own and make it more, gospel, spiritual, beat, funky, folkish. But I think too, it could be, as you're talking about where it fits in the more seriousness of the other side, is that it could be he's talking about the Let It Be in a cynical sense, like just let it be, just let it be. That's just the way it is. This is the way things can be sometimes, so just let it be, but almost singing it, like blues, where, you can sing a song and it's got beat and it sounds good, but it's not singing about good things. Yeah. It's just singing about, that's just how it is. That's how I feel. Yeah. So to me, maybe it's what he took it for, is like, I'm not looking at it from the standpoint of it being look forward to something optimistically. It's more like kind of almost cynical. Well, just let it be, or just sort of.
Well, see, to me, it's almost like the Beatles one I would put in that category, where it's more of a passive, just like it is what it is type of thing, because it's like that slow, piano. But then with his, it's kind of it's a little picked up, and it's got a little more shine to it with the hand claps and the tambourine. It almost feels like this is like that confidence you get when you're in the church, when you're in that spiritual area where you're like, no, I'm good. Everything's good. Just let it be as it is, because this is just how, God's going to do it. It's just let it be. Just let it roll. That's why, because it's just, I like it because I love Let It Be, the original. It's a beautiful song. I don't think anybody doesn't like that song, but I really like this one as it's just like it's like a lighthearted version of it. Yeah, different approach.
And it shows his uniqueness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his ability as a songwriter and a singer to tackle a song that he knows people are going to right away have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
He has to know that, but it just like, I just want to do it the way I want to do it, the way I like to do it,
Yeah.
So it's a good take
cover.
on it.
Yeah. Oh, and the one little note that I had, you might think he's saying Mary in a weird way, but he's actually saying Matty, which is his mom's name. Oh. Because Mary is Paul's mom's name.
Right. He says his mom's name.
And he says his mom's name. Because he says Matty in Grandma's hands too.
It's also possible that's something his mom would tell him. You know what I'm saying? In other words, maybe that's something he grew up with his mom telling him, well, let it be.
Just let it go.
Just let it go. Let it be.
Yeah. Well, and then we get right back into the serious.
Oh, yeah.
Right after that, with I'm Her Daddy, which is basically it's a story of an estranged father. Mm-hmm. And I don't have too much to say about it. I mean, it's a heavy song. It's almost like a ballad, like a plea. Mm-hmm. You know,
and it's very bluesy. He sings it with a lot of emotion.
Yeah, and it's got and the composure of the music gives off this feeling of like calm confusion. You know, like in the beginning when he's asking a lot of questions, and in the middle it's more of like an intense confusion where he's just getting a little bit louder and more direct, and then only ending kind of with concern for the child. And
you can sense there's a quiet desperation. You know,
right?
Like I really can't do anything about it, but I'm hurting because I'm her daddy, and I'm not a part of her life, and is she a part of my life? I mean, things you would think about with an estranged situation, I'm sure.
Well, and to think about the time period, this isn't a time period where you can just look up your past lover on Facebook and reconnect with them, even if you wanted to, even if you're the other side and you're just trying to look into the other person. I mean, if you lived together and had a relationship in Harlem, and then he moved on to LA and then never told her where he went, and then he moved on to some other suburb or some other city, it would have been extremely hard to track someone down that was willing to go across the nation. You know what I mean? So it's like,
no, it captures in his voice the blues feel of that the way the blues does that. It sings about hard things and difficult things and things that you can't change. You're just singing about it, but his voice is very powerful in that song.
Yeah, it is. That's it. I don't have too much to say about that one. It's one of the heavier ones. And then after that one is In My Heart. It's kind of an acoustic blues piece. Mm-hmm. It's just him and his guitar. It's short. It's a pretty short song. So I was just going to read it really quick. He says, when I need some affection, you're not there. I close my eyes and use my recollection. And in one moment, there's my favorite scene, taken from the place where I keep my dreams. In my heart, in my heart. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely thing to see the picture in the birthday wallet that you gave to me, but a man can lose a photograph. So just in case, I keep your portrait close to me in a special place in my heart, in my heart. It's a good poem. It's a good lyrics. Yeah. And, and this one, just because it's so direct and to the point, I do like that. And it's short. I do like that they didn't try to build up something crazy, in the background while he's playing. It's just a real direct, simple guitar song.
It's very simple.
Yeah. And then that's followed up. This is another one of my favorite from the album is Moanin' and Groanin'.
Yeah.
That's a really cool one.
Very interesting song.
It's a great beat. I love the beat to that song. I really like the production quality on the instruments. Like on that, because there was a break, and I'm curious like when this one was done. Like I wonder if this was the first one they did on the second half of the break. Because I think they did a majority of the album and then took a short break and then went back. That's all speculation, and I just say that because all the arrangements are great. Like the last one, In My Heart's the most simple because it's just him and a guitar, but then it's immediately followed by this one where you have strings, drums, but like everything's panned. You have a guitar on the far left, you have another guitar on the far right, and then he's right in the middle. But the buildup of the song, it's like audibly when you're listening to it, especially with good earphones on or good speakers set up, it's like it's a great wall of sound. Like it builds such a good musical foundation. And then I love, this is the only song I think he does it on, is he does an overdub. He does two vocals. So it's him, moaning and groaning, sometimes co-assigning or going back and forth, and it just adds that little extra dimension to his, to his delivery. I don't know, this one specifically, that's all I really have to say about it. But the production value on how they handled this song was really cool. I thought it was really, really nice. And then it wraps up with the final track, Better Off Dead. It's a tale of a anguished alcoholic. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
it's a strong bass line. It's kind of a slow crawling bass line. To me, because me and Scott, we reviewed Pieces of a Man, Gil Scott-Heron album. This is a track because it's around the same time period. I think these were released like within a year of each other. I think. Don't quote me on that. But they're very close. It's like 70, 71, 69, something like that. And it's very similar, reminiscent of a song from Pieces of a Man, just because of the musical structure and that bass line. It just sounds like the bassist from Pieces of a Man. But this is a very serious song. It's very hard, intense, like sad song. I mean, it's a story of selfishness. It's a story of selfishness, driving away his loved ones, his family, and eventually leading him to where he thinks he's better off dead, which, some people might say was the ultimate act of selfishness, of just, and he ends it, kills himself. And, but the self implosion, it's all detailed in the song about how, each little thing that's leaving him, each little thing that's changing from his life, and he's still not changing. He's not changing by himself. He's just gloomy. He's not trying to act. He's just reeling, and that's all it is. And then, so just full honesty here. This was a song that I would skip a lot, like, cause I've listened to this album a lot, but, this one and like In My Heart, were kind of the ones, and Let It Be, because like I just knew Let It Be. I've heard that a million times prior for the Beatles, and I've listened to this album a few times. And when I first listened to it, I would listen to it on rotation with the other stuff. But now I'm kind of like, I get it, and I'd move on sometimes. But this one, it was just like, it wasn't a mood I wanted to entertain. So it wasn't one I would play all the time, but or barely at all, or let it finish. I might start it and then be like, I'm not into that right now. I don't want to entertain that kind of feeling right now. But when you listen to this as a concept and as a full production, as a full album, because that's past me, that was me years ago. But now looking at this, like current me and how I appreciate music, when you look at it as the album closer, because I talked about this with Michael Rossi last week, that, it's very purposeful, in how they line it up, how they chop up the album. And it's crazy. I never finished the song. I never finished this track. And so up until like a year ago, I listened to this album all the way through. I think I was working, and I didn't put it on shuffle. I just put it straight through. Right. And when it got to Better Off Dead, I was listening to it, and I think I was working. I think I was at work writing something up. And then when the gunshot goes off, which indicates him killing himself, the song just ends, and that's the end of the album. And it was such a jarring thing, because I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting the song to just end, and I wasn't expecting the gunshot, and then for the album to end like that. So it's an interesting decision to end it, on the serious note. But I feel like this was probably the song that had the most stark ending. It had the most abrupt, obvious ending, and it was a good closing piece. But it's such a heavy song. Yeah,
and I think like you've said it a couple of times, production value. That it's interesting that the album reflects his personality more than it reflects the, trying to make it sound like what was happening at the time. He has a popular song, but it's very much in the vein of his style. It's not doesn't sound like somebody else. I mean, so again, like we talked about, Booker T allows him to pretty much project his own style, his own personality, and how he approaches the music. And so those songs are, like you said, they're things that he knew people that went through those things, or he experienced those things, or maybe he did some of those things himself. But they do capture a very bleak side of life. But I think that's part of the album. Like when you go back to Harlem, if you think about it.
Right.
When you look at the beginning of the album, Harlem reflects some dark, difficult lifestyles and things that are tough, and things don't work out. And so then at the end of the album, this person, it doesn't work out because they don't stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
it's a very wide, I guess, a variety of emotions and experiences and things like that. But I do think that song and Hope She'll Be Happier, I think they almost fit each other. They seem to balance each other and play off each other. Like as if they were meant to be to each other. Part 1 and 2 of whatever the story is that. This person that he's describing, whether it's him or a conglomeration of experiences that he's seen.
Well, maybe that's kind of the pacing they were thinking about, is the album covers such a wide variety of topics and perspectives that the serious one that has been, that's this story, the serious story has been illustrated by 3 songs. So I'd say Ain't No Sunshine, Hope She'll Be Happier, and Better Off Dead, all kind of line up in a serious curve. Like they complement each other, but each one ups the next one with how intense and serious the scenario is getting. And if you look at the album structure, it literally goes Ain't No Sunshine in the beginning, Hope She'll Be Happier right in the middle, and then Better Off Dead right at the end. So it kind of does fit this tale of woe, driven by self-action and lack of awareness to how you're actually, interacting with people, doing things. It's like you might appreciate people, but how are you showing it? And that's what kind of those last 2 songs are about, is that he didn't do that. That just didn't happen. And that's why everything is ending. It's coming to a close. Because again, you have Ain't No Sunshine. I wonder where she's gone. It's like it's the beginning. It's the unraveling. And you get Hope She'll Be Happier. She's left. And then he ends the track with saying, I didn't think that she really would leave, but now she's gone. And it's like a very confident statement. And then the ending, well, now he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very expressive album. It covers so much. And yeah, just like Pieces of a Man, it gives you, it's palpable. It gives you a sense of what he's been through or what he's witnessed and what he wants to teach about, wants to express about, and backed by masterful musicians that just bring it home. They back him, and they give him just the edge to put the spear tip on that pole and drive it through your heart. Because it just, a lot of these songs, man, they just cut through. I mean, it's not a pop album. It's not an album that's just schmoozy and simple.
No, and maybe that's what hindered him in his career, is that he didn't want to try to do things that were pop oriented or more popular sounding. But I think it would have extended his career or made him more accessible to a bigger audience. If he would have, but maybe that's not what he wanted to do. Maybe it's like, well, if I want to make music like this, then that's what I'm going to do. I don't.
Well, and you see it because I'm a big fan of his, and you see that with his other albums, that he normally has one song in there, because this album is mainly like, it's all expressive, real soulful stuff that you could tell it was like just what he wanted to do. And then in the preceding albums, I feel like he kind of gets more in that experience groove where he's like, okay, I want to do this, but I also have this song that could probably be pretty polished and be played on the radio, like anybody would, like like Lean on Me, Just the Two of Us, Lovely Day. It's like those are a little more simpler in their structure, and it's it's very easy to follow, and it's not as serious, So, the guy generated hits, like a good handful. He's got 2 of them in the Grammy Hall of Fame, which is crazy. But some of the ones that were hits were also hits just because they're a little abnormal. Yeah. But yeah, just an amazing writer, an amazing musician. And he lived till he was 81. Yeah, he passed away last year. Yeah. And his music career was only 16 years, like from a label contractually. He was trying to make music since 67, and then he ended, and his last album was released in 85. And but still appreciated and still listened to, definitely by me.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I really enjoyed going through this album and talking about it, and maybe someday we can do the next one, because Still Bill is another one of my favorites.
Okay,
his first 2 albums are awesome. So if you're listening to this and you've never heard all this album, it's an experience.
Yeah, that's good.
All righty. Until next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. For more episodes, visit our website, musicmythpodcast.com, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Goodbye.